Hey, Islanders, and welcome to episode 67 of the Camano Voice. Today, I speak with the owner of Papa's Apothecary. Please welcome Kevin Gilbert. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. Again, I just want to bring up, thank you everyone that's been listening. I actually got my first email, woohoo, for the Camano Voice. So again, that email, if you want to send me questions, comments, other interviewees, that email is voice@camanocommons.com. So send me an email. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you everyone again for sharing about the podcast. Again, if you can, share it with your friends. Let them know about maybe a favorite episode that you have. I really, really appreciate it, guys. All right, so this podcast, I got to speak with Kevin Gilbert, who, as I mentioned, is the owner of Papa's Apothecary. And I met him through the farmer's market here at the Camano Commons. So I started talking with him and was really interested and fascinated by his products and how did he get started with it. So I asked him to come on the podcast to share his story. So we get to hear about what he started with, where did he grow up, what did he do after high school, and how he eventually started Papa's Apothecary. He gets into a few of the marketing mistakes and packaging errors he had in the beginning, and how he's changed from that, and what some of his favorite products are, kind of what his process is for making new products, and also how to stay healthy, especially during this time as we enter fall and winter. Flu season, cold season, all that. So he has a few tips and tricks of things to do on a daily basis to stay healthy. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Kevin Gilbert. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the owner of Papa's Apothecary. Welcome to the podcast, Kevin Gilbert.
Thank you.
All right, before we get started, tell us a little bit about Kevin.
Well, I'm 46 years old. I grew up in the Bothell area. My wife and I moved here to Camano Island, 3.5 years ago. I'm an herbalist. I have a Bachelor of Science in Herbal Sciences from Bastyr University. And I love working as an herbalist. I love owning Papa's Apothecary. I love formulating products. I love bringing them to the market and sharing them with the people in this community and wider.
Nice. Very cool. So you grew up in Bothell area. What was that like for you?
It was great. I mean, I had a really good childhood. I have an older sister and a younger brother. My parents are still together, and they just moved this last summer from Bothell up to Stanwood to be closer to us. So that's really great. I had a lot of fun growing up. I went to Bothell High School, graduated in 1992, and right after high school, I joined the Marines. So I enlisted as an infantry Marine for a little over 4 years, and enjoyed that a lot, I guess. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think some of it is rose-colored glasses, where you look back on things that were not always great while you're there, but the camaraderie and the relationships that I built, and just the experience overall was a good experience.
Yeah. So, as far as getting into the Marine Corps, was that something that had been like in your family at all, or what kind of led you to join them?
Well, my dad is a former Marine also. The biggest, I think, driving thing for me was that I knew I was done with school at the time. When high school was over, I was not interested in continuing my education at that time.
Yeah.
The military just seemed like a very attractive thing to me, and the Marine Corps, is the best of the best, and I still believe that, and that's my dad's influence, and then just from interacting with the recruiters and that kind of thing, kind of solidified that for me.
Yeah. Very cool. So you served for 4 years?
4 years. I did a 6-month extension to stay with my same unit instead of switching units. So that's a thing. But yeah, 4-year contract that I signed up for.
Okay. And then upon getting out of the Marine Corps, what did you do then?
So while I was in the Marines, I met my wife. She's from the Juanita area. So she moved to California. We got married while I was in the Marines.
Okay.
And about 6-8 months before I got out, we had our daughter. We have one little girl, and she's an adult now. But so we had our daughter, and so as my enlistment was wrapping up, I decided rather than going all over the world and dragging them, I would get out and try my hand at the civilian world again.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of different things. I worked as a machinist apprentice for a little while, which had some good benefits. It was a good union job, but it was not for me. It just didn't click for me. I worked in a computer store for a little while I was going to school in the evenings at Seattle Art Institute. So I did a little bit of time at Seattle Art Institute in the multimedia program.
So was that focused on like marketing or like creating videos or?
That was more for video production, and it had I was very interested in video production. The multimedia program had some of that. It had like painting. It had a whole bunch of different parts to it.
Nice.
I didn't finish that program. That's just something I started, and I think it just also wasn't exactly what I was looking for. But some of the tools that I took from there, I can use today. I can use very, very rudimentary Photoshop skills, Illustrator skills, just things that I can kind of tinker with and have a very general understanding to use to help with my my marketing today.
Yeah.
So I was working at the computer store, and at that point, I ran back into a guy that I had gone to boot camp with, that I met going to boot camp, and he was working at Microsoft.
Okay.
And so he got me an interview as a contractor at Microsoft, and I switched worked over there for about 8 months as a contractor and was hired on full-time, and worked as a test engineer for 15 years almost.
Wow. Okay.
With the contract time also. So it was almost 15 years at Microsoft, which also was a wonderful... it had a wonderful benefits package for my family. It had a great paycheck, but also was not work that I had any interest in, really.
Yeah.
So it was it seemed like a constant struggle to not get fired and not lose my job, find things that I enjoyed while I was working there, and stay
like engaged with it.
Yeah, stay engaged and stay competitive enough to be on par with my peers, so that I wouldn't just wash out, right? Like I was clinging to that for a long time.
Yeah. So, and that was just from your experience of working at the computer store? That kind of got you enough experience to...
So starting as a test engineer was very, very, I guess, simple job, right?
Okay.
Can you check these boxes and make sure things are working right? And then from there, you have to grow into other positions. But for starting as a entry-level tester, as a contractor was not difficult then, I guess.
Okay.
Or maybe I guess they were letting more people in than they weren't.
Okay, very cool. So you were over at Microsoft then.
Mm-hmm.
How did that? So you kept kind of staying on board and everything. What kind of prompted you to leave, and how did that all come about?
So. My grandpa was my papa, and that's why I named Papa's Apothecary that name. It was after him. In his later years, his last couple years of his life, he was pretty sick. And I spent more time with him then than I had in, previous years. Other than when we were kids, we'd go visit every summer, every other summer. They lived in Texas. And spending that time with him just convinced me to do something that I was passionate about, do something with my life and my career where I'm spending all this time. Why not do something you like?
Yeah.
Why not do something you love? I also, I believe that his health would have been, his quality of life would have been better if he had access to maybe some plant-based medicines, So I was very interested in learning more about plant-based medicine, which led me to Bastyr.
Okay.
And so the whole time I'm at Microsoft, I had never gone to school. I never went back to college.
Okay.
So while I was there, I started night school, working on my associates, with the plan to transfer over to Bastyr at some point.
Yeah. So going back just a little bit, what made you think at the time with your grandpa that specifically plant-based medicines might be able to assist him? Like, did someone talk to you about that, or?
Well, it's more of the cannabis. He had cancer, and Texas was not a legal state, still isn't as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that cannabis use for him and for people in his state and his condition would be beneficial.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult, and it was very difficult to really find any studies that showed specifically one way or another. So that kind of led me to Bastyr, where I knew that it wouldn't be a jump. Okay, you're starting here, and when you graduate, you'll be working with a team of doctors, and we'll be doing these researches. I didn't think that was the path, but I knew that getting involved with research in some fashion could get me there.
Yeah.
And it was just where I thought the best place to start was.
Yeah.
So as I made my way through Bastyr, which is it's a 2-year bachelor's program, and I was very ignorant about herbs, how much herbs can do for us, the variety of different herbs and all of the constituents and all of the actions that they have on the body. I just didn't know. And as I went through, I fell in love with formulating products for people to use, and that's kind of what led me to starting Papa's Apothecary. Likely, I could get a job in a lab with one of the larger herbal companies doing quality assurance, working with making sure that they're getting what they need. But I didn't want to corner myself again and be in another lab or another big company that I just didn't have any say in what I was doing.
Yeah. No, for sure. So so you graduated from Bastyr. How long from that graduation did it take you? Kind of what happened after that? Did you immediately decide, like, this is what I want to do, or how did that kind of evolve?
So in the last few months of school is when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to take this thing. So I started putting together my product list, a short product list, what I wanted to make, researching how do I get these to the market. I mean, I can start a website, but there's billions of websites, right? How do I make this something that not only do I love making these things, but how do I get them out there? And it looked like farmers markets were a great place to either start or be. And so I did one market at a place called Trilogy. It's like not a retirement community, but it's kind of a gated community down in the Redmond area. So that was like kind of our first small market thing. We then got into the Everett Farmers Market for the last 5 or 6 of that season.
Okay.
And I think it was kind of a fluke because where our labels are and where our signage is today is much different than where it was when we started. When we started, everything had my grandpa's face front and center, and Papa's Apothecary and was on the front, and all the labels were craft brown with black letters.
Okay.
And so this just looked like men's products across the board. No matter what the label says, you see the picture of his face, and it's a guy's product. So I just found that I was telling people that would say, hey, let me bring my husband back, that they didn't have to, right? It's not just for their husband. So that was just something we had to adjust right off the bat.
Yeah. Okay. So then how did those first few markets go then? You finally mix some product together, you get to market. How did that go?
Well, they were kind of weird. I mean, it's strange. I had never been a big farmer's market attendee, I guess.
Okay.
I didn't go to a lot of markets, maybe 2 or 3 before this. So it was a big learning curve to figure out how the markets work and what, you got neighbors on both sides of you that were selling something completely different.
Uh-huh.
So I guess I would say it was fun enough and profitable enough to keep going and to figure out how to make it work better for us, how to adapt. That first year, we just did the Everett market those times, and then one or two other one-offs.
Okay.
But this year, we do 6 markets a week. Some weeks, so most weeks it's 5, but some weeks we'll pick up 6.
That's crazy.
And they're all dying off now, right? The season's kind of coming to an end. But yeah, so it's changed a lot.
Yes. Yeah. So when when you did those first markets, were you still working at Microsoft then?
No. So once I started school at Bastyr, maybe a little bit before then, before I was enrolled at Bastyr, I left Microsoft.
Okay.
The program at Bastyr is full time.
Got it.
Monday through Friday, right? So there wouldn't have been opportunities to do both.
Right. Okay. So then when did you graduate from Bastyr?
2017.
Okay. Nice.
And I would recommend to anyone that has any interest in herbal sciences, in naturopathic medicine, acupuncture, any of the holistic type of practices, check out Bastyr. They do a lot of informationals. It was one of the most fun experiences I've had as an adult, is going to school at Bastyr. It was great. The people that I went with, my cohorts, there were 12 of us, so it was a small group. Mm-hmm. But just a wonderful group of people that made the experience that much better.
Yeah, very cool. So, when it comes to like apothecary and an herbalist and all these different levels, there's naturopaths, there's holistic, of different levels. There's chiropractor. There's all these different levels. Where does apothecary kind of fit into that, and how does it kind of differ from, like, say, essential oils are becoming a very mainstream thing, right?
Sure.
And things like that. How do those all blend together?
So apothecary means it's like a wellness center. It's a pharmacy, old term for a pharmacy, basically.
Okay.
And as an herbalist, I use whole herbs. I use essential oils to create our products. A naturopathic doctor can rely on an herbalist to help support their practice. They generally know a lot about herbs themselves. They can also prescribe medications. So the naturopathic doctor, I always recommend people, if they can, see a naturopath. Mm-hmm. Naturopaths generally, at least coming out of Bastyr, are trained to treat the person, not the disease. So everything they'll do for you will help you become a more healthy person. It's not just going to give you one medicine to treat one symptom, which may cause other things to occur.
Right.
So I'm not sure. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's good. So as far as with what you do then, do you mainly, I know you run Papa's Apothecary and you're mainly focused on that aspect, but when you're talking like at the farmer's market and stuff with people, what's kind of your approach if people are coming up and they're asking, we're coming into flu season mm-hmm. here, what do you suggest and how do you, what do you do, I guess, to get ready for that?
So for myself, for flu season, I make elderberry syrup almost year-round anyways, but elderberry syrup is super easy to make. You can get elderberries. If you don't want to make your own, you can get syrups that are pre-made at like Urban Wellness, or even some of the local drugstores may have an elderberry syrup. But it's really easy to make. You take the elderberries, you basically simmer them down by half. If you have 2 cups of water, you simmer that down to 1 while you're not boiling, but almost boiling the elderberries, and then mm-hmm. you strain them out, and you can add honey or cinnamon. Very simple, and you drink just a little bit of that, a tablespoon or 2 a day.
Okay.
Helps keep the immune system in check. We do have a product called Boost My Immunity that is a roll-on, and that's based on the Legend of the Thieves blend, which the Thieves blend is the Legend of the Thieves comes from the time of the plague. The grave robbers would soak their bandanas, their masks, in a vinegar and herbal extract, basically, to cover the scent that they were experiencing while they're doing grave robbing. Unbeknownst to them, creating an antibacterial, antiviral, antimicrobial block that helps them not succumb to the plague as much as everyone else.
Wow. Okay.
And so we have a roll-on that contains some rosemary, clove, thyme, oregano, essential oils in a carrier, and that just helps keep the system in check there.
Yeah. So then, as far as the difference with external versus internal use, what would make you decide that like an external use would be better versus an internal use?
For it just depends on what the ailment is, I guess.
Yeah.
So for internal, it's essential oils are becoming more popular, and there is it seems to be some people are ingesting them. And this is a no-no across the board. So essential oils, never internal. There may be a few outliers or corner cases, or if you're working with a naturopath or an herbalist that knows what they're doing, then and only then.
Yes.
So never internal for essential oils. For topicals, it just depends on what the ailment is, I guess, what you're trying to help.
Yeah. Okay. So then, with creating your own products, what were you kind of going for with each one, and then how, you kind of look at the market and see what other companies and stuff like that are doing. How did you kind of design the products that you created?
So the things that we've created mostly have been things that we have wanted or needed, or people that we know have needed. First product we created was our sleep oil, our Sandman's Gift sleep oil, which is a topical. Everything we do is topical for Papa's Apothecary.
Okay.
I have trouble staying asleep, so this is a product that I formulated for myself to help me. My wife is a nurse and has trouble shutting things down and going to sleep, so it helps her. It's something that we need, I guess. It's something that we were after. We have a face care line, so we have a face wash. Everyone likes to wash their face. We have toner to help keep things nice, and then a couple different oil moisturizers.
Okay.
We do something for aches and pains. So, I'll get sore muscles. I'll work in the yard and have a sore back. So we got something for that.
Okay.
So everything is designed based on things that we see a need for, I guess.
Okay. Got it. And when you start formulating and creating something, so say for like the back for the pains and aches and stuff, where do you start with that? Do you have a general idea of what you're going to be using, or how do you kind of come up with that?
So I rely on my education, right, to know what are the actions I want. What am I trying to solve here? And if pain relief is what we want, then I know that there's this class of herbs and essential oils that have analgesic effects. And so from there I can say what are the most potent, what do I get the most out of, and then what do they smell like?
Yeah.
Because things have a bunch of funky different smells. Yes. And so taking into consideration the different actions that we want, the potency levels, and the scent are really, I guess, the main things.
Okay. And are there, whether it's essential oils or certain herbs or things that are really just there as a, maybe are more, not sugar pill, but like they're more like marketed and stuff like that versus some of the ones that are maybe lesser known that are really good at certain things?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of hard to answer. I don't follow a lot of the different marketing.
Okay.
For specific companies that would be pushing their oils or their herbs.
Right.
So we just use what we feel works best and has the best smell. I don't rely on other companies, what they're doing. It doesn't affect what we're doing, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. And then, are there certain are there herbs or maybe essential oils that you think that most people should have access to, as far as in their medicine cabinet? A lot of people have ibuprofen, Tylenol,
Sure.
Things like that. Are there things like the herbal version of that you would suggest?
So having lavender essential oil is super gentle. So you can apply lavender to the skin by itself without diluting it. That can help with, bug bites. You get scrapes, things like that. Lavender can be nice. But really, I think educating ourselves on the herbs and what a lot of people consider weeds that are growing in our yards could be more beneficial than filling up your medicine cabinet. For instance, the bees have been going a little crazy lately. There's plantain everywhere. So if you get a bee sting, you don't need to go to the store. You don't need to have a bee sting kit unless you've got some allergy. You can find something in your yard that will reduce the pain, the swelling, take the bee sting away.
Yeah, and my wife actually mixed up that with some, I think we have red clay, forget the full name of it, but that with the plantain, and we mixed it together, and then she had it in our fridge during this season, and we've had multiple bee stings because our kids run around with their bare feet and step on the bee and get stung.
Yeah,
But yeah, we've done it on at least 3 of our 4 kids, and it's amazing. Like we just wrap it in it, and by the next day we take it off. It's like the swelling's gone. There's no, and so it's really neat to be able to see these things kind of play out.
Yeah, just that little bit of information. I had no idea. I had no idea what was growing in my yard.
Didn't either. My wife did.
But just that type of thing is easy to access. It's easy to learn.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. So looking back at this year, 2020, how did the markets and everything go for you this year, especially it being such a weird year?
So the beginning of the market season was kind of scary because no vendors other than farmers were allowed to start vending in almost all the markets.
Yeah.
And so we didn't know if we were going to be able to set up. We still have our online store. We turned off shipping charges to make it super easy for people to order, not paying extra because, if they don't want to leave their house or can't leave their house, we want them to be able to get products if they want them.
Yeah.
But as markets came on board, like I said, we did more markets this year than any other year.
Yeah.
So we've had a bigger year than we've ever had before, but I work way more hours. But I like doing it, right? So it's not like it's not a grumpy thing to go to work. It's this is my business. I'm trying to grow it. Nobody else is going to go out here and do this the way that I want it done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think when I was trying to schedule a time for you on the podcast, I was like, well, I'll just do a quick search of seeing what his schedule looks like. And then I pulled it up, and you were like, all right, here's my market schedule. And it was 5 or 6 markets. And I was like, and for anyone who hasn't done a farmer's market before, they're like a very long day, and it's exhausting, and it's a ton of work to set up, stay there for the whole time period, and then you've got to break down and then drive back and unload and clean, and it's a lot of work. And I was like, he's doing this day after day after day. I was like, that is exhausting. So
it is, but most people go to work if they have a full-time job. It's 5 days a week, and I think a majority start earlier. Right, they have to get up early. They have to sit in traffic, which for markets you avoid most of the traffic. You're not going during rush hour. I think that's the biggest thing that would grind on me. Would be sitting in traffic.
Yeah,
so,
that's very cool. And then moving forward, then what do you kind of see the future of Papa's Apothecary?
Well, I hope that we continue to grow on the pace that we've been growing. I don't know that I want to do 6 markets a week every week for years. I just hired a marketing company, and so we're doing a couple different promotion things to see how online sales can grow.
Yeah.
And we'll just see what happens. I have aspirations to do some retail, and I think that our labels are just now to where I'm ready to pursue that. Pursue that, I guess, not aggressively, but seriously.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll do markets. We'll do some retail. We'll keep our online store going. Developing products. I want to flesh out the product line a little bit, but I also want to be careful not to have just too many things to where it's not manageable.
Right.
I want to do some things really, really well and grow on that, not have a bunch of scattered products.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. And as far as like retail side, are you thinking like you would eventually want to have your own space or mainly just selling in other places?
No, I think wholesale
Okay.
lines. I don't have a desire to open a brick and mortar and to deal with all of the
Aspects of that?
right, all the challenges that come with that.
Very cool. All right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most over the last 3 months?
So you sent me this, and I've had a hard time thinking of something that I've really enjoyed. I like beanies. I wear beanie hats, so I've a couple different beanies that I bought. The only other thing that I really purchased that I really like is it's a pull-up bar with a dips rack on it, and that was a little over $100. So
nice.
It's out of the
That's
scope here,
enough.
but with the gym shutting and the hot yoga studios, everything's, I guess they're reopening now, but having that at my house was a good way to keep things in shape.
Yeah, very cool. Pretend you have a friend coming from out of town. What would the first day look like here?
So I am I'm a homebody. I like to stay home. I like to relax, barbecue.
Nice.
So I would just have someone come over. We'd hang out. We'd grill. We'd show them the island some. We'd go down to Camano Beach.
Nice. Yeah.
Some of the local stuff. Maybe we'd come down here and get a coffee at the Commons here. But I don't think it'd be anything too extravagant.
Yep. Very cool. Who is an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
So I did I gave a talk to the Camano Island Culinary Arts Society.
Oh, okay.
And Jeff Lemkin is the guy that I interacted with. I don't know if he's in charge of that society, but that was a lot of fun. And I think they have a really cool program that I'm not sure what they're doing now, but they did have their monthly meetings, and they'd have contests, I guess, over their baking contests and stuff. But it was very relaxed. It was a very fun type of environment. So he might be a good person.
Nice. Was that the one up at the Camano Center?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. And lastly, if you could have a message on a billboard on Camano Island, right as they're driving up the island, what would that say?
Vote.
Yep. I think we're in that season that it's important.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. This has been interesting and fun.
Yeah. All right. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Kevin Gilbert for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/EP69. That's CamanoCommons.com/EP69. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.